Before we get into the story, leave a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. And don't forget to rate the story from 0 to 10 at the end. Enjoy the story. The rain hammers against the tall windows of the Manhattan penthouse law office, where Elena Martinez has been working late for the third night in a row. Her eyes burn from staring at contracts under the harsh fluorescent lights. Her back aches from hunching over her desk, and her stomach growls with hunger she's been ignoring for hours. She's 26 years old, a junior associate at Sterling & Cross, one of the most prestigious law firms in New York, and she's drowning. 3 months ago, she'd walked across the stage at Columbia Law School, diploma in hand, believing she'd finally escaped the suffocating poverty of her childhood in the Bronx. Her mother had cried. Her younger sister had cheered, and Elena had felt, for the first time in her life, like she'd made it. But the reality of big law has been nothing like she imagined. The hours are brutal, the partners are demanding, and the work, while intellectually challenging, often feels morally ambiguous. Tonight, she's reviewing acquisition documents for a real estate deal that will displace hundreds of low-income families from their rent-controlled apartments. Families like hers used to be. The irony isn't lost on her. Elena, a sharp voice cuts through her concentration. She looks up to see senior partner Richard Sterling standing in her doorway, his silver hair perfectly styled despite the late hour, his expression impatient. The Castellano file. Where is it? Her stomach drops. The Castellano file. She'd been supposed to finish reviewing it by 5 o'clock, but she'd gotten pulled into an emergency brief for another partner and completely forgotten. I'm almost done with it, she lies, her voice steadier than she feels. I'll have it on your desk first thing in the morning. Sterling's eyes narrow. I needed it hours ago. Luca Castellano doesn't wait for anyone, Miss Martinez, especially not a first-year associate who can't manage her workload. The condescension in his tone makes her jaw tighten, but she forces herself to nod. I understand. It won't happen again. It better not. Sterling turns to leave, then pauses. Actually, you can deliver it to him yourself. Tomorrow night, 8 o'clock. Castellano's hosting a private reception at his estate in the Hamptons. You'll bring the contracts, get his signature, and report back to me. Her heart pounds. She's heard whispers about Luca Castellano, the mysterious billionaire whose business dealings span real estate, import-export, and venture capital. Some say he's just an astute businessman. Others whisper about connections to organized crime, about politicians in his pocket, about deals that happen in shadows. No one at the firm talks about it openly, but everyone knows Sterling & Cross represents him exclusively, and that his fees alone keep the lights on. I don't think I'm the right person for this, Elena says carefully. Wouldn't a more senior associate be better suited? Sterling's smile is cold. Consider it a test. If you can handle Castellano, you can handle anything. The address will be emailed to you. Don't be late. Punctuality matters to men like him. Before she can protest further, he's gone, his expensive shoes clicking down the marble hallway. Elena stares at her computer screen, her reflection ghostly in the dark glass behind it. A test. Everything at this firm is a test, and she's been failing more than she's been passing. She pulls up the Castellano file, her fingers flying across the keyboard. It's nearly midnight, but she has no choice. She'll work through the night if she has to. The file is dense, hundreds of pages detailing a complex web of shell corporations, international transactions, and property holdings that seem designed to obscure rather than clarify. The more she reads, the more uneasy she becomes. This isn't just aggressive tax strategy or creative accounting. This looks like money laundering. Her legal training screams at her to flag it, to report it, to walk away. But her student loans, her mother's medical bills, her sister's college tuition, they all scream louder. She keeps reading. By the time dawn breaks over the city, painting the skyline in shades of pink and gold, Elena has finished her review. Her notes are thorough, her concerns documented in careful legal language that says everything and nothing at once. She prints the contracts, slides them into a leather portfolio, and finally allows herself to close her eyes for just a moment. Her phone buzzes. A text from her sister, Isabella. "Good luck today, Hermana. You've got this. Te amo." A small smile touches Elena's lips. Isabella doesn't know the details of her work, doesn't understand the moral compromises Elena makes daily. She only knows that her big sister is a lawyer now, that they're not struggling anymore, that there's food in the fridge and heat in the winter. That has to be enough. Elena gathers her things and heads home to her tiny studio apartment in Queens. She showers, changes into fresh clothes, and tries to sleep, but anxiety keeps her tossing and turning. When her alarm goes off at 6 in the evening, she's more exhausted than when she laid down. She stands in front of her closet, trying to decide what one wears to meet a possible crime boss. Professional, she decides. Authoritative, but not provocative. She chooses a charcoal gray pantsuit with a cream blouse, simple pearl earrings that had been her grandmother's, and black heels that add 3 inches to her 5'4" frame. She pulls her dark hair back into a sleek bun, applies minimal makeup, and studies herself in the mirror. She looks competent, professional, utterly terrified. The car Sterling arranged picks her up at 7. It's a black town car with tinted windows and a driver who doesn't make small talk. As they leave the city behind and head east toward the Hamptons, Elena watches the landscape change from urban density to suburban sprawl to the manicured wealth of Long Island's eastern shore. The houses grow larger, the properties more expansive, the gates more imposing. When they finally turn onto a private road, marked only by a discreet bronze plaque reading Castellano, her mouth goes dry. The estate is massive, a modern architectural marvel of glass and stone that seems to grow organically from the cliffs overlooking the Atlantic. Security cameras track their approach. A guardhouse with armed personnel waves them through after checking credentials. The circular driveway is already filled with expensive cars, Bentleys and Maseratis, and vehicles she can't even name. This isn't just a private reception. This is a display of power. The driver opens her door, and she steps out into the warm June evening. The sound of the ocean is audible beyond the house, waves crashing against rocks. Music and laughter drift from inside. She clutches the leather portfolio tighter and approaches the massive front door. It opens before she can knock. A woman in her 50s, elegant in a simple black dress, greets her with a professional smile. "Miss Martinez? I'm Francesca, Mr. Castellano's personal assistant. He's expecting you. Please, follow me." Elena steps into an entrance hall that could fit her entire apartment twice over. The floors are polished marble. The ceiling soars 2 stories high. And the art on the walls looks museum quality. Francesca leads her through the house, past rooms filled with beautiful people holding champagne glasses, their laughter bright and careless. They climb a staircase and walk down a quieter hallway, away from the party. Francesca stops at a heavy wooden door and knocks once. A voice from inside, deep and commanding, says something Elena can't quite hear. Francesca opens the door and gestures for Elena to enter. "Mr. Castellano will be with you shortly," she says, and then Elena is alone. The room is clearly a private office, dark wood and leather, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves, another wall of windows overlooking the ocean. A massive desk dominates the space, its surface surprisingly clear, except for a laptop and a single photograph in a silver frame. Elena moves closer. curiosity overcoming caution. The photograph shows a young boy, maybe 7 or 8, with dark curls and a gap-toothed smile. Before she can examine it further, the door opens behind her. She turns, an apology already forming on her lips for snooping, and finds herself face to face with Luca Castellano. Every whispered description she'd heard doesn't do the man justice. He's tall, well over 6 feet, with the build of someone who takes physical fitness seriously. His black hair is thick and slightly longer than is fashionable, curling just slightly at his collar. His face is all strong angles, sharp cheekbones, a jaw that could be carved from granite, a nose that's been broken at least once. But it's his eyes that stop her breath. They're the color of aged whiskey, amber and gold and brown all at once. And they look at her with an intensity that makes her feel simultaneously seen and exposed. He's wearing a black suit that probably costs more than her monthly rent. The jacket open over a crisp white shirt unbuttoned at the collar. No tie. Even in formal wear, he radiates a kind of dangerous casualness. "Miss Martinez," he says, and his voice is exactly what she expected, deep and smooth, with the faintest hint of an accent she can't place. Italian, maybe, or something more. "Sterling said you'd be prompt." She finds her voice. "Mr. Castellano, thank you for seeing me." He moves past her to the desk, his cologne, something woody and expensive, trailing in his wake. "Seeing you wasn't optional. Sterling assured me the contracts would be ready today." "Are they?" She opens the portfolio with hands that tremble slightly and removes the documents. "Yes, I've completed a full review. There are a few sections that might need clarification, but overall, everything appears to be in order." She's careful with her words, professional, not mentioning the irregularities that kept her up all night. He takes the contracts, his fingers brushing hers for just a moment. The contact is electric, unexpected. He seems not to notice, flipping through pages with practiced efficiency. "You're new," he observes without looking up. "First year?" "Yes, sir." 3 months. Columbia law, he continues, still reading. "Top of your class. Specialization in corporate and international law. Single. No children. 1 sister, 1 mother. Originally from the Bronx. Elena's blood runs cold. That's not information that would be in the firm's files. That's background information. The kind someone runs when they're vetting a person for reasons that have nothing to do with legal work." "How do you know all that?" she asks, forgetting for a moment to be deferential. Now he looks up, and something that might be amusement flickers in those whiskey eyes. "I make it my business to know who has access to my confidential information, Miss Martinez. Surely you can understand that. It's not understanding that concerns her. It's the implication that he's been investigating her, that he knows details of her life she hasn't shared with anyone at the firm. It's the sudden realization that she's not here just to deliver contracts. She's here because Luca Castellano wanted her here specifically." "Why me?" she asks, proud of how steady her voice remains. "Why not have Sterling bring these himself, or one of the senior partners?" He sets the contracts down and leans back against the desk, his arms crossed over his broad chest, studying her with that unnerving intensity. Because Sterling is predictable, the senior partners are ambitious and therefore corruptible. You, however, are an unknown quantity. He tilts his head slightly. "Also, you noted irregularities in the contracts that everyone else missed or chose to ignore. That interests me." Her heart pounds. "I don't know what you mean. Don't you?" He pushes off from the desk and moves toward her, slow and deliberate. Elena forces herself not to step back, not to show fear, even though every instinct screams at her to run. He stops just inside her personal space, close enough that she has to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. You flagged 3 separate transactions in your notes. Shell companies that don't quite add up. Money moving in ways that suggest someone's trying very hard to hide its origins. His voice drops lower. You're not wrong. The admission hangs in the air between them, heavy with implication. Elena's legal training wars with her survival instinct. If he's confessing to financial crimes, she's obligated to report it. But if she reports it, she implicates the firm, destroys her career, and potentially puts herself in danger. I'm just a lawyer, Mr. Castellano, she says carefully. I review contracts. I note discrepancies. What you choose to do with that information is your business. Something that might be respect flickers across his face. Diplomatic answer. He reaches past her, his arm brushing her shoulder, and picks up a pen from the desk. But let me be clear, Miss Martinez. I don't do business with people who lie to themselves. You're not just a lawyer. You're a woman with a strong sense of right and wrong, fighting against a system designed to crush people like you, people from neighborhoods where I also grew up. She blinks, surprised. You're from the Bronx? He signs the first page of the contract with a flourish. Hunts Point. Left when I was 15, after my father was killed. Started with nothing and built everything you see here. He gestures vaguely at the opulent surroundings. So yes, Miss Martinez, I understand the compromises you're making. The question is, how long before those compromises destroy the person you actually are? The question cuts too close to thoughts she's been having for months, fears that wake her at 3 in the morning when she can't silence her conscience. She straightens her spine. My choices are my own, Mr. Castellano, as are their consequences. Good. He finishes signing the documents and hands them back to her. Then, here's a choice for you. You can take these contracts, return to Sterling, and continue down the path you're on. Competent associate, maybe make partner in 10 years if you sacrifice everything else. Comfortable, but compromised. Or, you can consider a different path. Before she can ask what he means, the door opens, and a man enters without knocking. Tall and broad-shouldered with a scar running from his left temple to his jaw. He speaks rapid Italian to Luca, his tone urgent. Elena catches enough to understand something's wrong, something about a shipment and the harbor. Luca's expression doesn't change, but something in his posture shifts, becomes more focused. More dangerous. He responds in the same language, his voice calm but commanding, issuing what sound like orders. The man nods and leaves as quickly as he appeared. Forgive the interruption, Luca says, switching back to English as if nothing happened. Business never sleeps. What kind of business requires armed men and urgent meetings about harbor shipments? Elena asks, before she can stop herself. The kind that keeps me alive, he replies simply. He checks his watch, expensive and understated. I have something I need to attend to. But I'd like to continue this conversation. Will you stay? She should say no. She should take the contracts and leave immediately, report back to Sterling, and forget this entire encounter. But something in Luca Castellano's whiskey eyes, a challenge, maybe. Or a recognition of something in her that she doesn't fully understand herself, makes her hesitate. The party downstairs, she says. I'm not exactly dressed for it. A ghost of a smile touches his lips, transforming his face from severe to almost handsome. The party is for show. The people down there are useful but not important. You, however, are interesting, and I find I'm rarely interested in anyone anymore. It's not a romantic declaration. It's a statement of fact, delivered with the same casual confidence he applies to everything else. But it makes something flutter in Elena's chest, something dangerous. I'll stay for one drink, she hears herself say. Then I need to get back to the city. One drink, he agrees, but his eyes say he knows she's already lost this negotiation. He opens the door and gestures for her to precede him. They descend the staircase together, and Elena feels the weight of eyes on them as they enter the main reception area. Conversations pause. People watch. Clearly, being seen with Luca Castellano means something, marks her as someone significant, and she's not sure she likes it. He guides her through the crowd with a hand at the small of her back, proprietary and warm, even through her suit jacket. They end up on a terrace overlooking the ocean, where the sounds of the party are muted by distance and the crash of waves. A server appears instantly with champagne. Elena takes a glass, grateful for something to do with her hands. "Two interesting conversations," Luca says, raising his glass, "and the choices we make when no one's watching." She clinks her glass against his, the crystal singing. "What did you mean about a different path?" she asks. "You said I could continue with Sterling or consider a different path." He sips his champagne, his eyes on the dark ocean beyond. "I need a lawyer, Miss Martinez. Someone smart. Someone ethical enough to know when lines are being crossed, but practical enough to understand that the world doesn't operate in black and white. Someone who understands where I come from and won't judge me for the things I've had to do to survive. You need someone to legitimize your operations," she translates. "Make the illegal look legal." His laugh is short, sharp. "I like your directness. But no, I have plenty of people who do that. What I need is someone to help me build something legitimate, something that will outlast me. I've spent 20 years accumulating power and wealth, Miss Martinez. Now I want to build a legacy that won't crumble the moment I'm gone." She studies his profile, the strong lines of his face illuminated by the lights from the house. He's in his mid-30s, she estimates, young for the empire he's supposedly built. What kind of legacy? One that helps kids like we were. Scholarships, community centers, job training. I want to take everything I've learned, all the resources I've accumulated, and pour them back into the neighborhoods that raised us. But I need someone I can trust to structure it properly, to ensure it's not just another tax dodge or money laundering scheme. He turns to look at her directly. I need someone who still believes in doing the right thing, even when it's difficult. The offer is unexpected and dangerously appealing. It would mean leaving Sterling and Cross, severing ties with the security she's fought so hard to achieve. But it would also mean doing work that actually matters, using her skills to help people instead of displacing them. "What's the catch?" she asks. "There's always a catch." His smile is rueful. "The catch is that working for me comes with risks. I have enemies, Miss Martinez, people who would harm anyone close to me to get to me. There are also, let's call them, legacy aspects of my business that I'm working to phase out, but can't simply abandon overnight. You'd be entering a world where the rules you learned in law school don't always apply." She should be terrified. She is terrified. But she's also intrigued, drawn to this man who speaks about violence and philanthropy in the same breath, who built an empire from nothing and now wants to give something back. "I need time to think about it," she says. "This isn't the kind of decision I can make standing on a terrace drinking champagne." "Fair." He reaches into his jacket and withdraws a business card, plain white with nothing but a phone number embossed in black. "Call me when you decide. Or don't call and go back to Sterling and we'll both forget this conversation happened." She takes the card, their fingers brushing again. That same electric contact. "Will we?" she asks. "Forget this conversation?" His eyes hold hers. "No," he admits quietly. "I don't think either of us will." A commotion from inside the house interrupts the moment. Raised voices, the sound of glass shattering. Luca's expression changes instantly, becomes cold and focused. "Stay here," he commands, and then he's moving, fast and fluid, back into the house. Elena, against all common sense, follows. The party has transformed. People are pressed against the walls, fear evident on their carefully made-up faces. In the center of the reception hall stand 4 men in dark suits, their hands inside their jackets, in a way that suggests weapons. And facing them, utterly calm, is Luca. The man from earlier with the scar is beside him, along with 3 others who have appeared from somewhere in the house. "You weren't invited," Luca says to the intruders, his voice carrying despite not being raised. "Leave while you still can." The lead intruder, a man with silver hair and a face like carved stone, laughs. Still pretending to be civilized, Castellano? Still throwing parties and playing at being legitimate? His accent is thick, Russian maybe. "We both know what you are. A thug from Hunt's Point who got lucky." "I know exactly what I am," Luca replies. "The question is, do you know what you are?" "You're a dead man who hasn't stopped walking yet." Niccolo sends his regards. The silver-haired man makes a gesture, and his men start to draw their weapons. Everything happens at once. Luca's men move with practiced precision, and suddenly there are guns everywhere, pointed at everyone. The party guests scream and scatter. Elena freezes on the edge of the room, her heart hammering so hard she's sure everyone can hear it. One of the intruders spots her, his eyes narrowing. His gun swivels in her direction. "The pretty lawyer," he says in heavily accented English. "Maybe we take her, teach Castellano about the cost of disrespecting Niccolo." Luca's reaction is instantaneous and terrifying. He crosses the distance between them in 3 strides, and before the man can fully aim at Elena, Luca has him by the throat. Lifted off his feet and slammed against the marble wall with enough force to crack the stone. The gun clatters to the floor. "You point a weapon at her," Luca says, his voice deadly quiet. "And I will personally ensure you die slowly and in pieces. Do you understand me?" The man gasps for air, his face turning purple. Luca releases him, and he crumples to the ground, coughing. The silver-haired leader is now staring at Elena with new interest, clearly reassessing. "My apologies," he says to Luca. "We didn't realize she was under your protection." "Now we do." "Tell Niccolo that his message has been received," Luca says, "and that my answer is no. He has until the end of the month to reconsider his position. After that, the consequences are on him." The Russians back toward the door, keeping their weapons trained on Luca's men until they're outside. Car doors slam, engines roar, and they're gone. The entire confrontation lasted maybe 90 seconds, but Elena's whole body is shaking. Luca turns to her, his expression softening slightly. "Are you hurt?" She shakes her head, not trusting her voice. He closes the distance between them and takes her arm, gentle despite the violence he just displayed. "Come on, let's get you somewhere quiet." He leads her back upstairs to his office, Francesca appearing from somewhere to handle the traumatized party guests and the police who will inevitably be called. Once inside, he pours her a measure of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. "Whiskey. Drink." She does, the burn grounding her. "What just happened?" she finally manages. "A message," he says, pouring himself a glass. "From someone who wants my territory and my business. Someone who doesn't understand that I'm not the same man I was 5 years ago. And they threatened me to get to you." His jaw tightens. "They won't make that mistake again. Because you made an example of him." Her hands are still shaking. "You would have killed him if he'd actually pulled the trigger." Without hesitation, Luca confirms. His eyes meet hers. "Does that scare you, Miss Martinez?" The honest answer terrifies her. It should. That kind of violence should horrify her. But what actually scares her is the small, traitorous part of her that felt something other than fear when Luca defended her. Something like safety. Something like being valued. "Yes," she whispers. "It scares me." but not for the reasons you probably think. Luca studies her for a long moment, his whiskey eyes seeing more than she wants to reveal. Then I think, he says quietly, that you already know your answer about my offer. You just haven't admitted it to yourself yet. Elena sets down her glass with a shaking hand. I should go. That's probably wise, he agrees. But he doesn't move to stop her when she heads for the door. At the threshold, she pauses. Why did you really bring me here tonight, Mr. Castellano? It wasn't just about the contracts. No, he admits. It wasn't. Then why? Because 3 months ago, you filed a formal complaint against Sterling for trying to bury evidence in a case involving a sweatshop operation. The complaint went nowhere because Sterling has connections and you're nobody. But I read it. Every word. And I thought, here's someone who actually gives a damn. Here's someone who might understand what I'm trying to do. Her breath catches. She'd thought that complaint had disappeared into some corporate black hole. The fact that it reached Luca Castellano, of all people, seems impossible. Sterling had my complaint? They had copies, he confirms. Sterling represents some very influential people, Miss Martinez. People who keep close tabs on potential problems. You were flagged as someone who might cause trouble. That should probably concern you. It does concern me, she says. But it doesn't surprise me. That's because you're smarter than Sterling gives you credit for, Luca says. He moves toward her, stopping a respectful distance away. Go home, Elena. Think about my offer. But know this, whether you work for me or not, you're on dangerous men's radar now. Not because of tonight, but because you have something rare. Integrity. That makes you valuable, and, therefore, a target. The use of her first name sends a shiver through her. How do you protect against that? Carefully, he says, and by making alliances with people who have the power to keep you safe. Is that what you're offering? An alliance? Among other things. His expression is unreadable. Call me when you've decided. The car that brought her is waiting outside, the driver professional and silent. During the long ride back to the city, Elena stares out the window, her mind racing. She should call Sterling immediately and report everything. The threats, the violence, Luca's admission about his business operations. That's what a good associate would do. But a good associate would also have ignored the sweatshop evidence. A good associate would have let those families be displaced without documentation. A good associate, apparently, is someone Elena Martinez is incapable of being. By the time she reaches her apartment, it's after midnight. She kicks off her heels, pours herself a glass of water, and sits on her tiny futon couch, Luca's business card in her hand. The smart thing would be to tear it up and forget this night ever happened. Instead, she finds herself dialing before she can overthink it. He answers on the second ring. That was fast. I have conditions, she says without preamble. I'm listening. First, I want complete transparency about your business operations. All of them. If I'm going to help you build something legitimate, I need to know exactly what I'm working with. Agreed. Second, I get to set the ethical boundaries. If you ask me to do something I can't morally justify, I walk. No retaliation, no consequences. His pause is longer this time. That could be problematic. Then we don't have a deal. Another pause. Then, agreed. But with one condition of my own. You have to trust me enough to explain why certain things are necessary. I won't ask you to compromise yourself, but I need you to understand the context. That's fair. Third, I want double what Sterling was paying me, plus health insurance for my family. Done. And student loan repayment. You drive a hard bargain, Miss Martinez, he says, and she can hear the amusement in his voice. But yes, student loans will be handled. What else? One more thing, she says, her heart pounding. If we do this, it's a professional relationship. Nothing personal. Nothing that could be used against either of us. His silence stretches so long, she wonders if the call dropped. Elena, he finally says, and her name in his voice sounds like a promise and a warning all at once. I can agree to professional boundaries, but I think we both know that what happened tonight was already personal the moment I put myself between you and that gun. She doesn't have an answer to that. When do I start? She asks instead. Tomorrow. I'll send a car at 8. Bring everything from your apartment that matters. You'll be staying at a secure location until the situation with Nicolo is resolved. I don't need protection. Yes, you do. His voice is firm. You became a target tonight, whether you like it or not. Until I've dealt with this threat, you're safest where I can guarantee your security. And where is that? With me, he says simply. At my primary residence in Tribeca. You'll have your own space, your own privacy. But you'll be protected. This is moving too fast. She should pump the brakes, insist on maintaining her independence. But the memory of that gun pointed at her, of the cold calculation in the Russian's eyes, keeps her silent. Okay, she says quietly. 8 o'clock. Good. Elena, one more thing. Yes? Welcome to the family. The line goes dead before she can respond. Elena barely sleeps. She spends the night packing her modest possessions into 2 suitcases and a duffel bag, trying not to think too hard about what she's doing. At 7 in the morning, she calls her mother. Mommy, I need to tell you something. Her mother, permanently exhausted from 2 jobs and chronic illness, sounds worried. ¿Qué pasa, mija? Is everything okay? I'm changing jobs, working for a new client. It's going to mean better money, better hours. But I might not be able to visit as often for a little while. Be careful, Elena. Her mother's voice is sharp with concern. You sound like you're in trouble. I'm not in trouble, Elena lies. I promise. This is a good thing. Just don't worry if you don't hear from me for a few days. I love you. Te amo también, mija. But call your sister. She worries. I will. Elena hangs up before her mother can ask more questions. At exactly 8 o'clock, a black SUV with tinted windows pulls up in front of her building. The driver who emerges is not the same one from last night. This man is younger, broader, with the unmistakable bearing of military training. Miss Martinez? I'm Carlo. Mr. Castellano sent me. He takes her bags with efficiency and opens the rear door. The drive to Tribeca is shorter than she expected. Luca's residence turns out to be a converted warehouse building, all exposed brick and steel beams, with security that rivals the Pentagon. Carlo escorts her through 3 separate checkpoints before they finally enter a private elevator that requires both a key card and a fingerprint scan. The penthouse is not what she expected. Instead of the cold, masculine aesthetic she anticipated, the space is warm, filled with natural light from floor-to-ceiling windows, comfortable furniture that looks actually lived in, and artwork that speaks of someone with genuine taste rather than just expensive decorators. Plants thrive in various corners. Books fill built-in shelves. It feels, impossibly, like a home. Luca emerges from what appears to be a kitchen area, barefoot in jeans and a simple black t-shirt. The casual attire makes him look younger, less intimidating, though no less imposing. Good morning, he says. Coffee? Please. He pours her a cup from an expensive-looking espresso machine, preparing it without asking how she takes it, and somehow getting it exactly right. Your rooms are this way. He leads her down a hallway to a suite that's larger than her entire previous apartment. A bedroom with a king-sized bed, a sitting area, a workspace with a view of the city, and a bathroom with a soaking tub. This is too much, she says. It's what I have available. He sets her coffee on the desk. There's a secure laptop here with access to all my business files. Everything you asked for, complete transparency. The password is Hunt's Point. No spaces, capital H and P. The significance of him using his childhood neighborhood as a password isn't lost on her. When do we start? She asks. Now, if you're ready. He checks his watch. I have a meeting in an hour with my import-export division heads. You should sit in, get a sense of how things operate. Should I change? She asks, suddenly conscious of her casual jeans and blouse. You're fine. These men need to see you as I see you. Competent, intelligent, and not to be underestimated. The meeting takes place in a conference room on a lower floor. Elena follows Luca in and instantly feels the weight of male appraisal from the 6 men already seated around the table. They're all older, all dressed in expensive suits, all clearly surprised to see a young woman entering with their boss. Gentlemen, Luca says, taking his place at the head of the table. This is Elena Martinez. She's my new legal counsel and will be overseeing all operations going forward. Her authority comes directly from me, and her word is my word. Is that clear? The men exchange glances but nod. One of them, distinguished-looking with gray hair, speaks. No disrespect, boss, but legal counsel usually means oversight. Things might need to change. Good, Luca says flatly. Change is exactly what I'm implementing. Miss Martinez will review all current operations and make recommendations. Those recommendations will be followed. Another man, younger with nervous energy, pipes up. Some operations aren't exactly, he pauses, book-friendly. Then they'll become book-friendly, or they'll be discontinued, Luca says. His tone leaves no room for argument. Elena feels the resistance in the room, like a physical force. These men have been operating a certain way for years, and she's an outsider, threatening their comfortable corruption. Good, she thinks. Let them be uncomfortable. Mr. Castellano has brought me in for a reason, she says, her voice clear and professional. I'm not here to destroy what you've built. I'm here to protect it, to make it sustainable and legal. That protects all of you. The distinguished one, who she'll later learn is named Paolo, nods slowly. What do you need from us? Complete financial records for the last 5 years, she says. All of them. Import manifests, tax filings, corporate structures, employee records, everything. Paolo's expression doesn't change. That's a lot of information. Some of it is, shall we say, sensitive. Which is exactly why I need to see it, Elena responds. I can't fix problems I don't know exist. The meeting continues for another hour, Luca outlining his vision for transitioning to completely legitimate operations within 2 years. Elena taking notes and asking pointed questions that make several of the men sweat. By the time it concludes, she has a clear picture of the mountain she's agreed to climb. Back in the penthouse, Luca orders lunch, and they eat at the kitchen island, reviewing her initial assessment. It's worse than I thought, she admits, scanning through files on her laptop. The shell companies alone are going to take months to untangle. Some of them are probably going to have to be dissolved entirely. That's fine. His calm is remarkable. Whatever needs to happen. You could go to prison, she points out. Some of this, if it came to light, there's no statute of limitations. I know, he says. Which is why I need you to help me fix it before it does come to light. Why now? She asks. You've been building this empire for 20 years. Why decide to go legitimate now? His expression becomes guarded, and she thinks he won't answer. Then he reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone, pulling up a photo. The same young boy from the frame in his Hamptons office. My son, he says quietly. His name is Marco. He's 7. Elena's surprise must show on her face because Luca's mouth curves in a humorless smile. Yes, I have a child. His mother and I were never married. She died 3 years ago, cancer. Marco lives primarily with her parents in Italy, but he visits regularly. And one day, he's going to ask me what I did for a living. He sets the phone down. I want to be able to tell him the truth without shame. Everything clicks into place. The urgency, the willingness to dismantle what he's built, the focus on legacy. This isn't about redemption. This is about being a father. That's, she starts, then stops, unsure what to say. That's surprisingly normal, he fills in. For a criminal? She flushes. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. He stands, taking their empty plates to the sink. I'm not a good man, Elena. I've done things that would horrify you. I've hurt people, destroyed lives, made choices I can't take back. But my son deserves better than a father he can't respect. She watches him rinse dishes, this powerful man doing something so mundane, and feels something shift in her chest. The next 3 weeks pass in a blur of legal documents, tense meetings, and gradual understanding of exactly how vast and complex Luca's organization is. Elena works from before dawn until well past midnight, untangling the web of legitimate businesses, questionable operations, and outright illegal enterprises. Luca is true to his word about transparency. She has access to everything, including information that could put him away for life. It's a trust she doesn't take lightly. During this time, she also becomes familiar with the rhythm of his life. The early morning workouts in the building's private gym, the careful way he prepares coffee, a small ritual of normalcy in a chaotic existence. The phone calls to Marco in Italy every evening without fail, Luca's voice softening in a way it never does for anyone else. They fall into an easy partnership, professional, but marked by growing mutual respect. He values her opinion, implements her recommendations without argument, and backs her authority even when it costs him. She learns to read his moods, the slight tightening around his eyes that means he's angry, the way his accent gets stronger when he's tired, the rare, genuine smile that transforms his face. It's dangerous, this growing familiarity. The boundaries she insisted on are becoming harder to maintain. But so far, they've both honored the agreement. Professional. Nothing personal. Until the night everything changes. Elena is working late in her room, reviewing acquisition documents for a property in Brooklyn that could become the first community center in Luca's legitimate foundation. She's so focused that she doesn't hear the commotion in the main area until shouting breaks through her concentration. She emerges to find Luca in the living room, his phone pressed to his ear. His face a mask of barely controlled rage. When? He demands. How did this happen? Across the room, Carlo and 2 other security men are gearing up, checking weapons with grim efficiency. Something's wrong. Something's very wrong. Luca ends the call and immediately dials another number. His eyes find Elena across the room, and what she sees in them, fear, raw and undisguised, makes her stomach drop. They took him, he says, his voice hollow. The Russians. They took Marco. The room spins. Elena grabs the back of the couch for support. What? How? He was supposed to be at his grandparents' villa in Tuscany. Security, guards, everything. But somehow, Niccolo's people got through. He looks at his phone as if it's a foreign object. They're demanding I turn over my entire operation. All of it. Or Marco dies. The men around them are moving, organizing, making calls. Elena approaches Luca slowly. What do you need? She asks. He looks at her, and for the first time since she's known him, he seems lost. I don't know, he admits. If I give them what they want, we're all dead anyway. Niccolo won't honor any agreement. But if I don't? Marco. She takes his hand, the first time she's initiated physical contact. We'll get him back. But you can't think straight like this. You need to focus. He grips her hand like a lifeline. His strategy is this. He'll make me irrational, force me to make mistakes. She nods. So we don't make mistakes. We plan, we think strategically, and we get your son back. How? The question is genuine, seeking her guidance. Elena's mind races. She's a lawyer, not a tactical expert, but she understands negotiation, leverage, and how to find weaknesses in any position. Nicolo wants your organization, she says slowly, but he also wants legitimacy. That's why he's pushing so hard, because you're transitioning out of the criminal enterprises that made you vulnerable to competitors. His whole play is to take over before you're untouchable. Luca nods, following her logic. So his weakness is time. He needs to force my hand before the transition completes. Exactly. Which means his organization isn't as solid as he wants you to believe. If it was, he'd wait, build strength, move on you when you're actually vulnerable. This is desperation disguised as power. Something in Luca's expression shifts, the tactical mind that built an empire reasserting itself. Carlo, he says, without looking away from Elena. Pull everything we have on Nicolo's operation. Supply chains, distribution networks, political connections, all of it. Find his pressure points. How much time do we have? Elena asks. The message said 48 hours. Luca checks his watch. 46 now. The next hours are a masterclass in how criminal organizations function. Elena watches as Luca coordinates with contacts across the globe, calling in favors, making threats, piecing together a picture of Nicolo's vulnerabilities. She contributes what she can, analyzing the legal exposure in Nicolo's operations, finding the points where law enforcement could be encouraged to look closer. By dawn, they have a plan. It's risky, borderline insane, but it's all they have. Luca will meet Nicolo's demanded exchange, but instead of bringing his organization's assets, he'll bring something better. Evidence of Nicolo's own criminal enterprises, packaged and ready to deliver to 3 separate law enforcement agencies simultaneously. The message will be clear. Let Marco go, or everyone loses. I'm coming with you, Elena says, as Luca prepares to leave. Absolutely not, he responds immediately. It's too dangerous. She plants herself in front of him. You need a lawyer present. If this goes the way we hope, there will be deals to negotiate in real time. Plus, an extra set of eyes. You said yourself that Nicolo expects you to be irrational. Showing up with counsel proves you're not. He stares at her, jaw working. If something happens to you, I don't. He stops, and the raw emotion in his eyes takes her breath. She steps closer, invading his space the way he's done to hers so many times. Nothing's going to happen to me, because you're going to keep me safe, just like you have been. For a moment, she thinks he might refuse. Then he nods once, sharp. Stay behind me at all times. Do exactly what I say when I say it. No arguments. Yes, sir. The exchange is set for a warehouse in Red Hook, neutral territory, claimed by neither organization. They arrive with 6 men, Luca's most trusted, heavily armed, but with weapons concealed. Elena wears a Kevlar vest under her blazer, Luca's insistence. The warehouse is cavernous and cold, filled with shipping containers and shadows. Nicolo is already there with twice as many men. And in front of him, looking small and terrified but unharmed, is Marco. Elena's heart clenches at the sight. The boy is the image of his father, dark curls and strong features, but his eyes are wide with fear. When he sees Luca, he tries to run forward, but one of Nicolo's men grabs him back. Castellano. Nicolo calls out, his voice echoing. I see you brought your lawyer. Planning to negotiate the terms of your surrender? Not exactly, Luca replies. His voice is steady, but Elena can feel the tension radiating off him. I'm here to make a different deal. Nicolo laughs. You're not in a position to make deals. I have your son. And I have this. Luca holds up a tablet. On it are files, documents, recorded conversations. Everything you've built, Nicolo. Every dirty deal, every compromised official, every body you've buried. All of it, organized and ready to send to the FBI, Interpol, and the Italian authorities. One click. Nicolo's smile falters. You're bluffing. Am I? Luca's expression is cold. Test me. Watch what happens to your empire, while my son and I disappear to a country with no extradition. You'll have nothing, and I'll have him. That's not how this works. Nicolo's face darkens. I'll kill the boy right now. Then you'll definitely lose everything and gain nothing, Elena calls out, stepping forward despite Luca's warning glance. And you'll have made an enemy who has nothing left to lose. Trust me, Nicolo, you don't want Luca Castellano with absolutely nothing to lose. Nicolo's eyes narrow as he assesses her. The lawyer has teeth. Interesting. Here's my counteroffer, Luca says. You let Marco go, unharmed. In exchange, I don't destroy you. I let you keep your pathetic organization, and we stay out of each other's way. You don't get my assets, but you also don't get life in prison. That's not enough. Nicolo spits. Then this is. Luca taps the tablet, and suddenly screens mounted around the warehouse flicker to life. They show footage. Nicolo meeting with undercover agents he clearly didn't know were agents. Nicolo's men moving weapons. Financial transactions that spell out money laundering in clear terms. It's damning. It's comprehensive. And it's clearly ready to be released. Every news organization, every law enforcement agency, every one of your partners sees this if anything happens to my son, Luca says. Your choice, Nicolo. Make it fast. I'm not a patient man. The silence stretches. Elena can feel her heart hammering, can see the calculations running behind Nicolo's eyes. He's trapped, and he knows it. Fine, Nicolo finally spits out. The boy goes free. But this isn't over, Castellano. You've made an enemy today. I've had enemies before, Luca says calmly. They tend not to last long. Nicolo gestures, and one of his men pushes Marco forward. The boy stumbles, then runs, straight into Luca's arms. Luca catches him, lifts him, holding him tight. The tablet is still in his hand, his finger hovering over the screen. We leave first, Luca says. You stay here for 1 hour. Any of your men follow us, and I release everything. You'll be in custody before sunset. Nicolo's face is murderous, but he nods. The walk out of the warehouse is the longest of Elena's life. Every step, she expects gunfire, betrayal, something to go wrong. But they reach the SUVs without incident. Only once they're inside, doors locked and vehicles moving, does she let herself breathe. In the back seat, Marco is crying silently, his face buried against Luca's chest. Luca holds him with one arm, his other hand still gripping the tablet. Elena reaches over and gently takes the device. I've got this, she says softly. You've got him. Luca looks at her, and the gratitude in his eyes is so raw it hurts. Thank you, he says. She shakes her head. You saved him. I just helped. You did more than help. His voice is rough. You kept me sane. You kept me thinking. Elena, if you hadn't been there, I would have walked in ready to burn everything down, including myself. I know, she says quietly. That's why I came. The drive back to Tribeca is silent except for Marco's sniffles. Luca speaks to him softly in Italian, soothing words that gradually calm the boy. By the time they reach the penthouse, Marco has fallen asleep, exhausted by terror and relief. Luca carries him to his room, a space Elena hadn't known existed, clearly kept ready for his visits. She watches from the doorway as Luca tucks his son into bed, brushing dark curls back from his forehead, with infinite gentleness. When he finally emerges, closing the door quietly behind him, the mask he's worn all day finally cracks. He leans against the wall and just breathes, his hands shaking. Elena moves without thinking, wrapping her arms around him. He stiffens for a moment, then pulls her close, his face buried in her hair. They stand like that for a long time, the adrenaline and fear of the day slowly draining away. "I thought I'd lost him," Luca finally whispers. "When they called, all I could think was that this was my fault, that my choices, my past, had cost him his future." "It wasn't your fault," Elena says firmly, "and you got him back. That's what matters." He pulls back enough to look at her, his hands on her shoulders. "Why did you do it? Risk yourself like that?" "You could have stayed safe here, because she starts," then realizes she can't finish that sentence without crossing the line they've carefully maintained. "Because you matter to me," she admits. "You and Marco both. More than is probably smart or professional." His hands slide from her shoulders to cup her face. "Elena," he says, and her name is a question and a prayer all at once. "I know we said professional boundaries. I know we agreed to keep this separate. But I can't. I don't want to anymore." "Neither can I," Elena whispers. The kiss is inevitable. Luca's mouth on hers is gentle at first, almost questioning, giving her every opportunity to pull away. She doesn't. Instead, she leans in, her fingers threading through his hair, and the kiss deepens into something hungry and desperate and long denied. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Luca rests his forehead against hers. "This changes everything," he says. "I know. Are you sure?" His eyes search hers. "Because once we cross this line, I won't be able to pretend you're just my lawyer. You'll be mine, and I protect what's mine with everything I have." That should scare her. The possessiveness, the intensity, the complete certainty in his voice. Instead, it makes her feel safe in a way she's never experienced. "I'm sure," she says, "but I have conditions." "Of course you do," he says, a smile playing at his lips. "I tell my family the truth. Not everything, but the important parts. That I'm working for you, that we're together. I won't hide. Agreed. We keep working on making your operations legitimate. That doesn't stop just because we're involved. Wouldn't dream of it." "And Marco?" She hesitates. "He has to be okay with this. With us. I won't come between you and your son." Luca's expression softens. He's 7. Right now, he'll be thrilled that I'm smiling more. But yes, when he's older, we'll make sure he understands and approves. "Anything else?" she asks. "Just one thing." His thumb traces her lower lip. "Say yes." "To what?" "To everything. To me, to this life. To building something together that's bigger than either of us alone. To being my partner in every sense of the word. It's too fast. They've known each other less than a month. Any rational person would slow down, take time, think it through. But Elena has spent her whole life being rational, playing it safe, following the rules. And where has it gotten her? "Yes," she says. The smile that breaks across Luca's face is like sunrise, transforming him from intimidating to almost boyish. "Then come here," he says, and kisses her again. The next months unfold like a dream. Elena moves completely into Luca's space, no longer pretending her room is separate from his. She meets Marco officially as Papa's special friend, and the boy, resilient and sweet despite his ordeal, accepts her with the easy trust of children. She becomes part of their rituals, the Sunday morning pancakes, the bedtime stories, the way Marco climbs into their bed during thunderstorms. The work continues. Elena methodically dismantles the illegal aspects of Luca's empire, replacing them with legitimate enterprises. A foundation takes shape, focused on education and opportunity for underserved communities. The men who worked for Luca either transition into legal roles or quietly fade away, their pensions secured, their silence assured. There are threats, of course. Niccolo isn't the last enemy to emerge. But each time, Luca and Elena face them together, her legal mind and his tactical experience proving to be an unbeatable combination. She learns about his past, not all at once, but in pieces. The father killed in a territory dispute, the years spent fighting his way up from nothing, the things he did to survive that still haunt him. She shares her own history, the poverty, the constant fear, the determination to be more than her circumstances allowed. They fit together in ways that surprise them both, his intensity balanced by her calm, her idealism tempered by his pragmatism, his protective instincts matched by her fierce independence. It's not perfect. They argue, passionate disagreements about strategy and ethics and how much risk is acceptable. But they always come back to each other. Always find the compromise that honors both their perspectives. 6 months after that first kiss, Luca takes Elena and Marco to Italy. They visit Marco's grandparents, who regard Elena with cautious approval. They tour the Tuscan countryside. And one evening, standing on a terrace overlooking Florence as the sun sets, Luca drops to one knee. He doesn't make a pretty speech. He just says, "I never thought I'd have this. A real family. A chance at a normal life. You gave me that, Elena. Say you'll keep giving it to me. Forever." She doesn't even pretend to consider. Yes, the wedding is small, immediate family only, in a tiny church in the Tuscan hills. Elena wears a simple white dress. Marco serves as ring bearer with endearing seriousness, and when the priest pronounces them married, Luca kisses her like she's the most precious thing in his world, because she is. The years that follow bring challenges. The foundation grows, becoming a model for how former criminal enterprises can redirect resources toward community benefit. Luca's past never fully disappears. There are always whispers, always people who remember what he was. But his present and his future are spotless. Marco grows into a thoughtful teenager who splits his time between Italy and New York, who knows his father's history and loves him anyway. Elena makes partner in her own right, building a practice focused on helping businesses transition into legitimacy. They have a daughter, Sofia, who has Luca's eyes and Elena's determination. Watching him with their baby, singing soft Italian lullabies at 3 in the morning. Elena thinks about how far they've both come. One evening, after Sofia is asleep and Marco is at a friend's house, Elena finds Luca on their terrace, looking out over the city. She wraps her arms around him from behind. "What are you thinking about?" she asks. He covers her hands with his. "That I don't deserve this," he says. "You? The kids? This life?" "That's not true," she says firmly. "Yes, it is." He turns to face her. "I've done terrible things, Elena. Hurt people. Made choices I can't take back. Some of the men I've ordered punished probably deserved mercy. Some of the deals I've made destroyed lives." She knows this. He's never hidden from his past, never pretended to be better than he is. "But you're not that man anymore," she says. "And the man you are now. The one who reads bedtime stories and builds community centers and teaches his son about honor. That man deserves everything good. You really believe that?" "Always." His arms tighten around her. "How did I get so lucky?" "It wasn't luck." She smiles. "It was contracts. You needed a lawyer, remember? Best decision I ever made." He kisses her forehead. "Hiring you." "No," she corrects. "Letting you see the real me. The woman who was scared and compromised and trying so hard to do the right thing. That's who I fell in love with. Not the confident lawyer who sits in meetings now. The terrified girl in the gray suit who called me the night I offered her a choice. I was terrified, she admits. Of you. Of the life you represented. Of my own response to it all. Still am sometimes, he says, quietly. Afraid I'll wake up and this will all be gone. That I'll have to be that person again to protect what I love. You won't, she says with certainty, because you're not alone anymore. Whatever comes, we face it together. Together, he repeats, like he's testing the word. It still sounds strange to me sometimes. An entire lifetime of only relying on myself, and now there's you. There's us. That's what family means, she says. Us. You, me, Marco, Sophia. We're a team, a family, he says, and smiles. Never thought I'd have one that wasn't built on fear and obligation. This one's built on love, she says, and trust, and the fact that you make really good coffee. He laughs, the sound genuine and free, always the practical one. Someone has to be, she teases. You'd be plotting elaborate strategies to make breakfast if I left it up to you. You're not wrong, he admits. They stand together in comfortable silence, watching the city lights sparkle below. Elena thinks about the girl she was, fleeing from an abusive relationship, desperate to prove herself, willing to compromise everything to survive. She thinks about the man Luca was, built from violence and necessity, incapable of trust or vulnerability. And she marvels at what they've become together, something neither could have managed alone. Two damaged people who found each other and built something whole. "Papa!" Marco's voice calls from inside. "I'm home!" "We're out here," Luca calls back. Marco appears, now 16, and already as tall as his father. "Sophia woke up," he reports. "I got her back to sleep, but she's probably going to want Mom soon." Elena squeezes Luca's hand and goes to check on their daughter. In the nursery, Sophia is indeed awake. Her dark eyes, so like her father's, staring at the ceiling. The moment she sees Elena, she coos and reaches out. "Hey, baby girl," Elena whispers, lifting her. "Couldn't sleep?" Sophia grabs a handful of Elena's hair, her favorite toy. In the soft glow of the nightlight, Elena rocks her daughter and hums a lullaby her own mother used to sing. The words are Spanish, the melody simple, but it contains all the love and hope she has for this tiny person. This child who will never know poverty or fear, who will grow up safe and loved and confident in ways Elena never was. This is what Luca gave her, not wealth or security, though those matter, but the chance to break the cycle, to give the next generation something better. And she gave him the same, a reason to be better, a family worth changing for, a life beyond survival. They saved each other. Really. Not in the dramatic way of fairy tales, but in the quiet, daily way of two people choosing to trust, to be vulnerable, to believe that redemption is possible. Sophia falls back asleep in her arms, her tiny fist clutching Elena's finger. Elena stands there a while longer, memorizing this moment. The peace, the safety, the absolute certainty that she's exactly where she's meant to be. Tomorrow will bring challenges. There will always be echoes of Luca's past, always complications. But tonight, in this quiet moment, everything is perfect. When she finally returns to the terrace, both Luca and Marco are there, heads bent together over a book. The sight makes her heart full. Her family, her choice, her life. Luca looks up and smiles, the expression transforming his face with warmth. "Everything okay?" "Perfect," she says, and means it. Absolutely perfect. Years later, people will ask Elena how she ended up married to Luca Castellano, the reformed crime boss turned philanthropist. Some will phrase it delicately. Others will be blunt about their judgment. She'll never give them the full truth. Some stories are too complex, too nuanced for public consumption. But sometimes, late at night, when Luca holds her close, she'll whisper the real answer against his skin. "You were never a monster," she'll say. "You were a survivor who didn't know any other way, until you found one." "We found it together," he'll correct. "Neither of us could have done it alone." And that will be the truest thing they'll ever say. Because love, real love, isn't about saving someone or being saved. It's about two people choosing to be better together than they ever could be apart. It's about seeing someone's worst parts and loving them anyway. It's about building something new from the broken pieces of what came before. Luca Castellano was a man who never bowed to anyone, who built an empire through will and violence and refusal to submit. But Elena Martinez, with her integrity and courage and unflinching honesty, brought him to his knees in the best possible way. Not through force or manipulation, but through tears shed for a future worth building, through belief that he could be more than his past, through love offered without conditions or limits. And in the end, that was the greatest victory of all. Not the legitimate business empire, not the foundation helping thousands, not even the beautiful family they built together, but the simple, profound truth that two people from nothing, from violence and poverty and despair, could create something good, something worth protecting, something that would outlast them both. That's the story Elena will never tell publicly, but it's the one she'll carry in her heart for the rest of her life. The story of a mafia boss who never bowed until her tears brought him down, and how, in falling, he found the strength to rise as someone better, someone worthy of the love she gave so freely, someone who could look his children in the eye and tell them the truth about where he came from and where he was going, someone who learned that the truest power isn't dominance or control. It's vulnerability. It's trust. It's the courage to let someone see you completely and believe they'll stay anyway. Luca learned that lesson from Elena, and she learned from him that survival isn't enough. That safety without meaning is just another kind of prison. That sometimes the most dangerous choice, falling in love with someone impossible, is also the only choice worth making. Together, they wrote a different ending than either of their stories should have had. And if that's not a happy ending, then what is? What did you think of their story? Share your thoughts in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what's your rating? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to follow all our stories, and check out more emotional stories by clicking on the end screen.